In this video, we're gonna be talking about must-have accessories that will be beneficial for you regardless of if you're working out from home or if you're working out at the gym. And we're gonna go in order of least to greatest, so we'll save the most recommended things till towards the end, factoring in both the price and the versatility of what each thing allows you to do. So it's kind of a loose structure. But before we get into that list, hi, my name is Ryan Treadaway, founder of TreadawayTraining.com, where we turn skinny guys into jacked men. If you want more information on body transforming training and nutrition topics, along with a lot of home gym training topics as well, consider subscribing. First up, good old foam roller. Nothing super fancy here. Good at myofascial release, getting some knots out of your muscles, relieving some tension and pain. Not very expensive. You can get a small one like this and toss it in your gym bag in case your gym doesn't have one, or if you just don't want to use the one that's at the gym, or you can use the small one at home to save a little bit of space on storage. Next up, we have your deadlift jacks. If your gym doesn't have a deadlift jack, then it's helpful to be able to bring one to the gym. And then you have your good old cheap dead wedge. This is about 15 bucks. And you can put it in your gym bag, you can put it in a drawer at home. Takes up literally no space at all. Makes it a lot easier to load the plates on the bar when you're doing deadlifts. Or you can go with a more expensive option like the Cleva built single-sided deadlift jack. A little bit better than this, but also a lot more expensive than this. So a couple different options. I have a video comparing these head to head if you want to check that out up in the cards or down in the description. Next up, we have a squat sponge, and contrary to the name of the product, I would not recommend you use this for squatting, but what I would recommend you to use this for is hip thrust. Hip thrust is an exercise that you can load extremely heavily, and the more weight that you add on to the bar, the more uncomfortable the bar is going to be on your pelvis. And so having some cushion in between is going to allow you to continue to increase weight, grow the glutes, while not crushing your pelvis in the process. Next up, we have the Teeter Hang Ups. These things are pretty cool. They allow you to do a couple unique exercises. You can do some inverted ab work, some inverted oblique work, and then of course you can just hang and do some spinal decompression as well. But these will take up a decent amount of space in your gym bag if you're taking them to the gym. If you're working out from home, they're not too big, so they're not too difficult to store, but they are also pretty expensive. They're around 100 bucks. So for the amount of versatility that they add, you might want to consider the price that they require as well. Next up, we have a head harness, which allows you to do some neck extensions, some neck curls, things like that. For those of you out there like me who you just want to be as big and beefy and monstrous looking as physically possible, and one way to be able to do that is to add to the size of your neck, because that's one thing that is very visible always, no matter what you're wearing. Even if you're wearing winter clothing, you can typically still see your neck. And then if you have a big tree trunk neck sticking out of your shirt, it just adds to that muscle, masculine look if that's what you're going for. Next up, we have this guy right here, which is a barbell attachment for a landmine setup. This will allow you to do several unique exercises. I talked about this a little bit more in detail in a previous accessory video that I put up that focused specifically on home gym workout accessories. And even if you work out at the gym, I would still recommend you to get one of these because it's very cheap. It was like 20 bucks maybe. You can easily put this in your gym bag. It allows you to do some unique exercises with a landmine setup, different variations of rows, some different curls, different things like that you wouldn't normally be able to do otherwise. Next up, we have lifting straps. These are pretty self-explanatory. If your grip strength is a limiting factor, if you're doing heavy pulls, then you might want to consider some lifting straps. You have some budget straps here running about 5 to 10 bucks. And then you have the more expensive VersaGrip Pros, which will run you about 50 bucks, but in my opinion are worth every single penny. I do have a full video on these that will be up in the cards and down in the description. And the one thing that I will say about lifting straps is be careful about using them, and only use them when you absolutely need to use them. Only use them when your grip strength is becoming the limiting factor for one of your pulling exercises, because you want to rely on your grip strength as much as possible so that the actual grip strength doesn't further become an issue. So only use these if you actually need to use these, and only when you need to use these. Wrist wraps are up next, and another self-explanatory item. They can help keep your wrist in that nice vertical position rather than bending back when you're using heavier weight for pressing exercises. And again, I would only recommend you use these when you actually need to use these versus just throwing them on and allowing your wrists to get weaker and weaker over time by using them with every single exercise. Next up are elbow sleeves, and with elbow sleeves there's a lot of different options out there. There's like a lot of the different things that you see on TV commercials and things like that. That's basically just one of your thin, like spandex type material sleeves. I would not recommend using those if you're going to use a compression sleeve on your elbow or on your knees for that matter. Spoiler alert as to what's the next item. I would use an actual thick neoprene sleeve, and it will give you the benefit of helping with any elbow discomfort to a degree, but also they will give the added benefit of if you're in the powerlifting space and you want to add a few more pounds on a press, you can get a little bit more by adding some elbow sleeves. Next up, you guessed it, we have knee sleeves, and with the knee sleeves, same type of benefit as with the elbow sleeves. Keep your knees nice and warm during your lifts. Give a little bit of a protection benefit there. Of course, there's no replacement for good form and not bouncing out of the reps at the bottom of the rep and things like that. But these also, again, like with the elbow sleeves, will give a little bit of a rebound benefit as well. So when you're doing your heavy squats and things like that, doing those 1 rep maxes at powerlifting meets, things like that, it'll give you that extra little bit of boost that could potentially make the difference if you're borderline on missing or getting a lift. Next up, we have an extremely versatile and not very expensive piece of equipment. We have ankle straps here, and you can combine these with resistance bands or a cable setup to do all kinds of different exercises with your lower body and your abs. You can do quad exercises, you can do hamstring exercises, you can do a variety of ab exercises that involve pulling your legs to your torso. Very versatile piece of equipment, maybe 15 bucks. Must have piece of equipment right here. Next up, you have another extremely versatile piece of equipment with a resistance band set. You'll get even more benefit out of this if you're working out from home with a limited equipment setup, but you can even still get a lot of versatility out of this at the gym as well. Most of these kits are pretty cheap. You can get one around 20 bucks. It'll come with multiple bands of varying resistance. Will come with a couple of single handles. Will come with ankle attachments, come with a door anchor, all kinds of different cool things. You can use this for upper body exercises, lower body exercises. Even if you have a lot of equipment at the gym, there are still some unique exercises that you can utilize these for at the gym, such as standing hip thrusts for a good leg warm up and glute activation exercise. You can do band pull aparts as an accessory at the gym. Again, all kinds of cool things that you can do with these, and they're pretty cheap. Next up is a piece of equipment that I talked about just a couple of weeks ago, and that is the Monkey Feet by Animal House. And this is an extremely unique piece of equipment. You can lift dumbbells with your feet. So you can do hamstring curls at home without having to have resistance bands or a fancy cable setup. You can do quad exercises, you can do glute exercises, you can do ab exercises, all kinds of unique lower body and core exercises. And you could even use these for pull-ups as well if you wanted to use these for weighted pull-ups, but I would recommend just putting a dumbbell between your legs, honestly. That'd be a little bit easier, but you could even utilize it for that as well. So if you work out from home, this is extremely valuable. And even if you work out at the gym, depending on what equipment you have available, this could be equally as valuable for you as well. Or if you just work out at a crowded gym and your leg curl, leg extension, glute kickback machine, different things like that are constantly taken up and you're having to wait a long time, you can have this in your gym bag as a backup plan for those times when you're time crunch as well. Bloodflow restriction bands. These are incredibly valuable for a couple of different purposes, actually. There are a few different ways that you can trigger muscle hypertrophy or muscle growth. One of those is through metabolic stress, which I talk about more in my dedicated blood flow restriction video, which you can check that out if you want, up in the cards down in the description. But with the restriction bands, you can lift lighter weight for more reps and get a similar muscle growth response as if you were lifting a little bit heavier weight for fewer reps, which is a big benefit if you are more of a power lifter, or if you're someone who just likes to lift heavy and you're constantly taxing your joints. You can do a little bit lighter weight on some of your accessory movements to give your joints a break. And additionally, you can actually use these to help heal some aching joints, because when you use the blood flow restriction training, you can get that blood to pool up, get those metabolites to pool up around those joints and actually promote some healing as well. So you can use it to prevent some minor injuries as well as to heal some minor injuries as well. Next up, we have good old chalk. That's going to be beneficial for your grip strength, aiding your grip strength during heavy pulling exercises like deadlifts, heavy rows, things like that. You have your traditional chalk bar, which is going to be a little bit more beneficial, but at the same time is also going to be a lot more messy. And some gyms are not going to allow you to use regular chalk, or if you're working out from home and you just don't want to deal with cleaning up the mess, you might not want to use regular chalk. So you could go with liquid chalk, which is going to be almost as good, but not near as messy. So a couple different options you have here. Next up, we have squat shoes, which are one of the things that's going to be more expensive, but also going to be one of the things that lasts you the longest. I've been using these squat shoes for 7 years now, and based on how well they've held up, I feel like I have maybe another 5 to 7 years out of these before I need to replace them. And with your squat shoes, you have a raised firm heel. So it's basically the opposite of a running shoe. So you have a 3/4 inch or 1/2 inch, depending on what type of shoe you're going to go with. These are a 3/4 inch heel, hard plastic. You can get them that just have a super dense foam, or even something like wood. And what that elevated hard heel will allow you to do is, one, it will transfer the force of you pressing down on the heel directly into the ground, rather than if you're squatting in a running shoe or something like that. The design of a running shoe is it's designed to disperse that force out throughout the shoe evenly, and you lose some of that force transfer. I talk about that more specifically and review these shoes themselves in another video, again up in the cards down in the description. And these are great for squats and really any squat variation. I like to do my lunges in these and any leg exercise really. Typically I'll throw these on for a leg day, and unless it's deadlifts, I'll just leave these on for the whole session. And then I even like to use them for things like bench press as well, to get a little bit of leg drive with the bench press, give a little bit of extra benefit, and get a little bit more weight using that leg drive in the squat shoe. Next up, we have a lifting belt. What a lifting belt will allow you to do is it gives you something to force out against when you're bracing your core during a heavy lift. So when you're doing a heavy squat or a heavy deadlift or something like that, when you take that deep breath in before the lift and brace the core in that nice 360-degree pattern, you have something to force out against, which one gives a little bit of extra protection benefit, as well as giving you some tactile feedback to help you maintain that proper brace throughout the lift. And there's a number of different things to look at when it comes to a lifting belt. The main thing that you do not want is you don't want one of those belts where it's really tall in the back and then tapers down and gets smaller in the front. You want a nice 4-inch all the way around lifting belt in either 10 or 13 millimeter. So you want something that's nice and thick and rigid, not something that's like one of those super thin, flimsy belts that you can just flop around. And then my personal preference, I like double prong belts, but you can get single prong, you can get lever, you can get ratchet belts. There's all kinds of different things that you can look for there. So the buckle preference, there's pros and cons, and that part's more of just a personal preference. But the main thing that's non-negotiable, you want one that's not tapered, all the way around, even, and then either 10 or 13 millimeter. Next up on the list are your good old wireless earbuds, because you gotta have your tunes when you're working out, whether that be at home or at the gym. These are the Sony WF-1000XM3. These are noise canceling, active noise canceling earbuds, so they do a good job of getting rid of that background noise. So if you're working out in a noisy environment, it can help to keep that from bleeding into your music, help you to be able to concentrate a little bit better. I actually bought these for consultation calls with potential clients and coaching calls with my current clients, but they obviously are really good for music as well. So double purpose there, big win. Obviously got to have your music, so wireless earbuds. And we have one of the most important items, if not the most important item on this entire list, and that is your good old training log, training notebook, something that is very cheap. This one cost me like $1, and I have like a whole year's worth of workouts in this thing. Actually more than that. I have almost 2 years of workouts logged in this thing. You need to track your progress if you want to actually see progress. If you go in there and just choose weights on a whim and you're not making sure that you're progressing over time, then you're not going to progress over time. Now, of course, if you have a coach who uses an app, we have the Treadaway Training app that we use with our clients. And so if you have something like that, of course, you can log in an app, which would serve the same purpose. But if you're just working out by yourself and you want to just jot things down real quick, you can use a good old $1 notebook like this. If you want to check out the squat shoe video, click here. If you want to check out the weight vest video, click here. And then if you want to check out any of the other videos that I mentioned as well, you can check all of those out down in the description. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next week. Hey, baby. Hush my bubble. Hush my baby. Oh, you're bashful? Okay, just kidding.